Hello, my name is Peter Hawkins. I'm coming to you from Australia. I'm proud to be brought to you by PTTRS, who is Africa's expert in xAPI, and they've asked me to talk to you a little bit about xAPI today. I need to apologise for not being there yesterday. Unfortunately, something really very critical came up and I just was not able to join you, and I'm so sorry about that. I wish I had. My organisation, GVM, is also specialising in xAPI, and that's why we're very, very proud to be partnered with PTTRS and working with them to deliver xAPI solutions in Africa and surrounds. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what xAPI is and how it came to exist, how it works, some practical examples and some case studies, and how you can get started. To understand a bit about xAPI, it's useful to know its name. It's actually an abbreviation for the Experience API. It's about experiences. It's really important. And if we think about what our daily lives are like at work, they're full of experiences. People here in their workplace doing all sorts of things, delivering classes, reading reports, phoning clients, looking at data. Some of them are doing an exam, others are winning awards. How would you describe those experiences? Usually, we describe them as three-word sentences: subject, verb, object. Jeremy mentored colleague. Wendy delivered class. Joan phoned clients. Sue designed a presentation. Lim correctly used some data. Subject, verb, object. And that's the key to xAPI. It lets you describe people's experiences as subject, verb, object. You know, if we look at the history of our training standards, the first one actually is 1988 and was called AICC. The only thing it did is it recorded whether or not somebody passed or failed. That's okay. But then in 2001, SCORM came along. Most of you may have heard of SCORM. It's what your LMS probably uses right now. And it lets you know how long people spent or what multiple choice option they chose in a multi-choice exam. So it does still record pass and fail, but it adds a few extra things like time spent and which option somebody chose. But you know, it still doesn't really capture experiences. It doesn't know anything about whether they watched a video on the YouTube. It doesn't know whether their supervisor observed them doing something correctly. It can't talk to the Internet of Things and ask a truck whether a maintenance engineer fitted a part correctly. Hey, that truck is probably connected to the Internet these days. And it can't see whether they're engaged in good dialogue online. It can't look at their mobile apps to see if they're learning in different ways. It can't ask equipment whether somebody did better before training or after training, better than they were before, whether they make fewer mistakes. So it can't even tell you whether the training is working well. These are all the sorts of questions we'd love to ask. But you know, it's even more than that, because if we think about it, we've always learned from experiences. Here are pictures from a long time ago of people learning things. Somebody watching somebody else break bread. Somebody watched Baker. 3 words. It's an experience. Somebody else is skinning an animal. Somebody skinned animal. Showing somebody else how to do it. Somebody else is learning to make a pot. Somebody spun pot. 3 words. That's the way we've always learned to do things. So SCORM is actually an anomaly. The way we sit somebody in front of a computer and ask them to do an exam, that's fine. But what we really would like them to do is go and try it out. Go and prove they can do something well. Or prove that they can do it better now that we've given them some instructions. Wouldn't that be good? Why don't we liberate them? Yes, we can still use e-learning if that's what we want, but let them try things out as well. And then we can be much more confident that they're ready to perform tasks that we give them. So let's have a little look at why we introduced these standards in the first place. What did SCORM do for us? It created structure. It reported results, and we used those to accredit people, to give them certifications. We tested them. If their certification expired, we recertified them using SCORM. Sometimes we tailored our training to people based on their results, told us how to train them better. We did all of those sorts of things because SCORM started giving us the data to add some structure. Wouldn't it be great if we could extend that structure to their experiences as well, the way they really should be learning? So how does xAPI do that? This is a little model. And you can see I've got 3 different things that are experienced. Maybe the teacher's observing somebody doing something. Maybe they're using Microsoft Teams to have some chats. Maybe they're doing an e-learning course on Moodle or an LMS. And it's those different things. This is when somebody had an experience. And maybe after that, as soon as it noticed it, it sent a message, like a little ball rolling into our bucket here. Every time a device notices you've experienced something, it sends a message. That's what xAPI does. And those messages are the 3-word sentences. So that device, that Moodle, will say, person did exam. The teacher's view. Teacher will record, I observed student. Or student successfully did task. The teams might be saying messages like, person posted useful message. Person asked good question. So the devices start collecting information they're invited to and sending it to one place. And we've got names for the parts. The parts that are involved here, the things that send the messages we call learning record providers, or LRPs. The thing that collects the information is called a learning record store. It's a piece of software. It's just a database. They're cheap. In fact, they're free. Most of them are free. So a free tool that collects information. And the messages that are rolling down from these things, we call them xAPI statements. That's how it works. It's really simple. You just let devices notice when people experience something, send a 3-word message to your LRS. And when you put that together, you get something a little bit like this. All sorts of things sending information. But let's also give it a try. I've set up a YouTube for you, and you can watch it if you point your phone at this QR code. And, you can pause it, you can rewind it, zoom it forward, whatever you like. And underneath that video, if you scroll your screen down on your phone a little bit, you'll notice it's picking up what you did. By the way, you're not logging in. That's the other thing about xAPI. It's not like an LMS. You don't actually have to even log into something. It's smart. All it wants is the name to put to its messages, so that it knows who had this experience. So it just asks you for a name, just so that it can describe who you are. So have a play. Point your phone at this QR code and play with the video. And then have a look down and you will see messages describing what you've done with it. And then if you go further down, you'll see a graph showing what everybody's done with this video. And you can see which bits of the video people tend to watch, which are the bits they skip. And I'd like you to think, how could you use that if you were a trainer to make a better version of this video? You might decide, okay, the bits that people are watching over and over again must be complicated. Maybe I need to expand on that a little bit. Maybe that's the most useful part for them. And you could use that information to deliver better training. But you could also use it to accredit them. So now they don't have to necessarily do an exam. You can ask the question, hey, did they watch the video? And based on that, yes, okay, they're ready to do this task. So it's broadening the world. It's letting you train people in better ways, the way that really gets them to be efficient and productive, and also letting you find out by looking at the tools that you want them to use whether they are more efficient, whether they're productive enough, whether they're qualified to use it. That will make a difference to your bottom line because your people will be better trained and better skilled if they're able to do things well. And that brings me to the xAPI promise. It promises to be able to do things like 70-20-10. Some of you may have heard of that. The idea is that only 10% of what we learn is informal training. 20% is mentoring and 70% is trying it out. Think about that. School is 10%. So only focused on the formal training. xAPI does 70 and 20 and 10. It does the 10 by getting the results. It does the 20 by letting the supervisors and the observers and the mentors note whether we did things well. And the 70, whether we actually experienced it by asking our tools to report when we used them and how well we used them. How powerful is that? You're multiplying the amount of information you've got from 10% up to 100%. But it also lets you do continuous improvement because by looking at this information, you can improve your training. You can work out what's going well, just like in that video, what bits people used. Tells you how to make a better video. It lets you continuously improve your training to get better and better. And also it promises ROI, return on investment. It lets you work out whether people are better at their job after you've trained them, so that you can say, this training that cost us $1,000 to run gave us $100,000 to our bottom line. And that makes trainers powerful in their organizations because they can show to management why they need to invest. But you don't have to take my word for it. Let's look at what some actual organisations have done. Central Queensland University is a large university in Australia, 60,000 students, and we work with them to install xAPI. Let's have a look at what they did. They recognised that their students were doing all sorts of training, not just exams and classes, but today's students go to the library, they use social media, They do prac sessions, they read their texts, of course. They use video libraries, some of them provided by the university. But they also knew that most exams, or most universities, are only measuring information about those students from a fraction of that. Most of what the students are doing is ignored. Their degree is based on one tiny little fraction of their student experience. And they wanted to do a bit better. By turning on all of these, having the library send xAPI statements whenever somebody borrowed a book, having the prac sessions send results, having their chat forums and discussions report xAPI when students engaged online with one another about a topic. They've got a video library and they plug that in as well, so when people watch videos, they were sending xAPI statements and they could see that. By gathering information from all of that, they had a much bigger picture of students, and what they decided to do with that data is this. They fed it through an AI that could tell which students were in trouble even before they started to fail, so that they could intervene early and they could help a student who was going to start failing because the AI detected that they were at risk. You can't do that with exams alone because it doesn't give you a full picture. Hey, an exam can't tell me whether this student has stopped turning up to class or whether they're reading the book at the last minute before the exam, which is a warning sign. All those sorts of things. But an AI that's tapping into all of this information from xAPI around the campus can see that and tell them, hey, this student needs some help. Perhaps they're having problems at home, perhaps they're disengaged, perhaps they're not really learning as much as they should. They might fail an exam. This is how you can help them. Very valuable, considering how expensive university is, to stop people from failing before they do. But private organisations like Visa use xAPI a lot as well. They had a mess. They had all these different tools for helping their staff learn. They had Degree, they had shared LinkedIn Learning, they had Cornerstone as an LMS, they had a thing called Mind Mentor, they were subscribed to O'Reilly Books, they used Star 360, which was another system, and SharePoint documents, all sorts of things. And they were spending a lot of money on all those subscriptions, but they could only get results from Cornerstone, the LMS. And they wanted to know, do we still need all of these? Are they all being used? But they didn't know. They couldn't get rid of them. They had to pay for them all the time because in case somebody needed them, and they didn't know. But also, how do we know if somebody's really compliant with the rules that we've set? Because, you know, they might be doing exams okay on Cornerstone, but some people don't use it. Some people use the other ones. And we've got no information to know whether they're learning from them. So how do we know whether they're compliant? So what they did is they told all of those to send xAPI statements. And they could report on any one of these tools. So people could choose whichever one was best for them, or whichever ones are best for them. And Visa can report on it. But it got better. Here's how they saved a lot of money. They started to notice that some of these weren't sending any xAPI statements. Some of them don't seem to get used. xAPI started to tell them which ones were not needed. And every one of these is a useless tool that they can get rid of. So they did. They cancelled these subscriptions and saved a great deal of money. So suddenly xAPI is not costing them money, it's saving them money. And at the same time, they're getting a single reporting platform. They're not the only ones, by the way. We know of another organisation that saved $7 billion simply by getting people to do their task right and asking their tools whether they were doing a better job, because it costs so much when people make mistakes. We work with Moody's. You might be familiar with them. They are the ones that do credit ratings for nations and also large organisations. But one of the things that Moody's does is they provide training videos. And they wanted to know, how engaged are people with our videos? So what they did is they asked those videos to send xAPI statements. These are the questions they wanted. Are they completing them? Are they culturally relevant in different parts of the world? We don't know. We know they work in America, but we don't know if our videos work elsewhere. And as soon as they started asking those videos to send xAPI statements, they collected this sort of thing. How long were people spending? How fast was it playing? What was their internet like? What volume settings? Were they actually listening? Or did they turn the volume down? Where in the video did they pause? Or what did they skip? Hey, what browser were they using? What time of day did they watch the video? And geolocating, what part of the world were they in? They asked all of these sorts of things, and they were able to get a really good picture of how engaged people were. But better than that, with xAPI, they can add more statements in the future whenever they want to. New measures over time. One of the great things about xAPI is that you can extend it. When SCORM was created, they said there are 4 things we want to know. We want to know how much time people spent, whether they passed or failed, what their score was, and what answers did they pick, whether they chose the right answer on a question. Those are the 4 from SCORM. And the problem we've now got is we now want to ask other things. Where are they? Or what time of day is it? Or did they do that well? Those sorts of things. And SCORM doesn't let you ask that. But the good thing is, if you have a standard that's based on 3-word phrases, subject, verb, object, it can send anything it wants. It can send new things in the future when we need to send different sentences, different subjects, different verbs, different objects, because we're not restricted now. It's just, all it says is composed subject, verb, object. So suddenly it's very flexible, and it won't be redundant in 10 years. So Moody's are really excited to be able to extend it as they start learning more about videos. They might extend it to ask, hey, what's the measured job performance improvement, for example. So how can you get started? Well, together with PTTRS, we've developed a simple platform, a product, that gets you going with xAPI. And it answers the sorts of questions that we see a lot of people want to ask. It's a proprietary solution that we come up with. It comes with all the consultancy and help and advice you need to get going. Even though we don't own xAPI, it's a standard, it's out there, and everybody will be using it in 5 years, everybody. But the thing that isn't out there is help. That's what analytics ecosystem provides to help you need, and it includes the tools to get you going. And that's the starter program. And with that, your work environment can be turned into a full learning ecosystem where everything's connected, everything's reported, and you know who is really good at their work and exactly how to improve their performance, how to improve your bottom line through better information, better training. Why choose our starter program? Well, you'll get a custom implementation plan built just for your organisation, suited to you. Our experts and Peter's experts will work together to give you an easy action plan that meets your needs. Not only that, but, as I mentioned, xAPI will be everywhere in 5 years, and LMSs that you've got now will start to be redundant. Some of them are already starting to wind down. So your training that you've got now, you won't be able to run it because SCORM, the standard that your LMS uses, is now retired. It's not supported anymore. And that means that learning management systems won't be able to keep using SCORM for much longer. I'm actually part of the team internationally that is developing the approach that will be adopted by future training platforms, future LMSs. And the ones you've got now will be supported for just a couple more years. After that, you probably won't be able to use the sorts of systems you've got now, which is why it's important to future-proof yourself, to be ready for a world where the systems you have assume instead SCORM that you're using xAPI. So it's future-proofing. You'll get the best out of your training budget. That is, it'll tell you exactly what's working. Analytics ecosystem will tell you that. It'll tell you how to improve it, how to adjust, how to get better performance, where people are making mistakes, what information they need, when they need it. It'll help you automatically deliver messages if you want to people just before they start to do a task. All of that sort of thing, connecting your workplace together, building skills around your entire workplace. More to the point, you'll be working with proven experts, Global Vision and Petters together. Some of the leading experts in this technology there in the world. In fact, Global Vision was the founder of the Global xAPI Users Group. We've spent thousands of hours helping organisations just like yours implement this ecosystem and get the most out of it, and we would love to help you. So, what do we do in the consulting phase? Well, we audit your organisation. We find out how we can really help. We provide one or two major business needs that really will make a big difference to your bottom line. We look at what measurement points can be introduced so that you know what's going on and you've got really good data, and then a plan to implement that so that you can actually start collecting it. We give you a basic LRS for free, which means that the system you need, you don't have to pay any extra money for. So the basic LRS is included, and that will start collecting this data. Here's some information about xAPI that's helpful to you, I hope, and will get you going. I'm afraid you can't quite see the xAPI users group. Maybe we can send that to you. But if you want to learn a little more, I'd suggest some of these would be really useful. Actually, come to think of it, you can see the xAPI users group right there. It's the fourth dot point here. So I urge you to take a look and learn a little more, and we've given you access to some brochures here as well that could be helpful. And finally, before I sign off, I'd just like to let you know that we have some quite serious recognition. Over 3,000 completed projects, over 1,000 happy clients, 155 years of collective experience and 12 awards. We would be delighted to assist you. And there's my email, but I'd also urge you to contact PTTRS to learn how xAPI can support you in your workplace. And thank you very much for your time.